largest online bookstore. We currently turn over a couple of $1 million per month, and we employ 55 people, and we have 4,000 square meters of office and warehouse in Lane Cove West here in Sydney. Now, I say that perhaps to not so much scare you, but realise that's where we are today. But what I want to try and do is just bring you back to perhaps where I've come from. You might be exactly where I was, you might be further down the track, to realise that it's just a matter of starting and going step by step perhaps and getting where you want. Now, I had no money to start my company, and I had my IT guy come in and set up my computer the first day of my business. And once he had gone home, I turned on the computer, I saw there was a thing, this is in 1996, and I saw there was a thing on my computer called a browser. So I clicked on it and had a look in it, search. I put in jobs in Australia, and up came a website that you could advertise your jobs. So I put my jobs up there that night, that I had 8 jobs to start my company from previous customers. And the next morning when I turned on my computer, resumes started being emailed to me. And I looked at them and I said, that is the future of recruitment. And literally from day one, I went out and told people I was an internet recruitment agency. Now in the mid-90s, the first question I got asked was, what's the internet? I had to actually explain the internet first before I could talk about our recruitment services. And because it was IT, the guys probably thought, well, he's going to get people that others don't get, so they gave me a go, and I got started. It took a couple of months, and I got out of my home and got into some office space, and the business started to grow. Convinced my brother and brother-in-law to join me at that time, and we built that business up to about 35 people. After that, along the way, we've been building software for our business, and my brother-in-law's background was working for IBM, so we started building all this software for the internet, and doing so, we decided to sell the recruitment agency to focus on this chat software that we had built for the internet. And the month after we had basically started that business, that chat software internet business, there was a big crash in the early 2000s, for those of you that are old enough to remember that the dot-com, if you're nodding heads, that businesses were really going under and internet businesses were struggling. So in my desperation to survive and actually pay myself a salary, I asked a web designer, how do you get to the top of Google? Because Google had been going for a few years, and I figured if we're at the top of Google, then perhaps we'll make a little more money. And he told me what to do, and within a month or so, we got to the top of Google for chat software and live help. And it was from that I had a conversation with the lady to say, look, how about using our chat software? And she said to me, look, I'd love to chat to people. I just need more people coming to my website. Oh, I can get you to the top of Google. She said, give me a proposal, which I did for $500, and we got it to the top of Google, and she was really happy. And it was a great project. The next customer I spoke to was the largest car hire company in New Zealand. So instead of putting a proposal through for $500, I put one in for $18,000. Our business was struggling, we needed money desperately. I spoke to the guy for an hour on the phone about all the things we were going to do for his company and his website. In the end, he said, all right, let's do it. So I put down the phone, I turned to my brother and brother-in-law, and I said, shit, we're in big trouble now, we have no idea. But from daybreak to midnight, we just learnt the art of driving traffic into websites. And we became very quickly one of Australia's largest internet marketing consultancies. So we were optimizing websites, managing Google ad campaigns, and we had quickly, from almost going under, and it was obviously in the early days, we were able to survive and pay ourselves a salary. So from there, we did a job for Angus & Robertson. For those of you that remember, they obviously had some struggles in the last couple of years, but we ended up working on their website, which then led us to being introduced to a company who was managing their site and fulfilling all their orders, and they managed about 80 other bookstores. So it was my brother's idea of approaching them and saying, hey, remember the good job you did for Angus & Robertson? Why don't about introducing us to all your other customers, and we'll get them all to the top of Google. And the owner of the company said, no, not interested. I said, you're not interested in making more money? And he said, look, it's not our business. Our business is managing websites and fulfilling book orders. That's what we do. I said, well, how does it all work? And he said, look, it takes 10 minutes to set up a store. We've got a system that has 1 million books on there. If you sell any books, you earn commission. I said, wow, that's really interesting. He said, yeah, but no internet-only business has made anything of it. And this is around Christmas of 2003. So I went away from that meeting back to our 60 square metre office, which was probably about a quarter of the size of this room, back in North Sydney, and I said to my brother on the drive back there, I said, you know, wouldn't mind giving that book thing a bit of a go. So I was going, we still didn't have a lot of money, so my Christmas holidays that year was going camping up the coast of New South Wales, and I'm trying to come up with the name of a store, and I'm in the, couldn't think of anything, I'm in the national parks of New South Wales, a typical Australian summer's day with the insects screaming at the top of their lungs, and I turned to the person I was with and I said, oh, it's like that kids movie, Ants, where the insects talk about this place called Insectopia. And when I said Insectopia, I thought, oh, Booktopia, that could be a good name. So then I came back to Sydney, checked, and no one had bought their web address or registered the business, which we did, and we rang the company and said, we're going to give it a go, it's Booktopia, and this company that managed the websites. So within 10 minutes we had a website with Booktopia up the top and 1 million books on there, and all we had to do was get traffic. So my brother said, all right, you can start Booktopia, but we've got all this consulting work, you need to do that in the evenings. I said, sure, no problem, I've got no problem with that. He said, and my brother handled the finances, and he said, all right, you could, but I'm giving you a budget of $10 per day to start the company. He's very generous, my brother. So because I was an expert on Google, I went to Google and I set up the ads, Google ads, and I had capped it at $10, but instead of wasting a lot of clicks on bookstore, bookshop books, I went for author names and titles of books and sent them deep into the site. So it took me 3 days to sell my first book. By the end of the month, I sold about 60 books, or a couple of $1,000s worth. By the 4th month, I was up to $30,000 a month. By the end of the year, $100,000 a month. By the end of 2 years, $200,000 a month. So the business was getting bigger. We were, of course, spending more than $10, but we were measuring everything. So what worked, what didn't work. Certain terms were good, certain terms weren't, but because you can put code on the thank you for your order page, we could see what was working and what wasn't working. So the business grew. We were giving this company who was doing all of the fulfillment and all of the website for us tips on how to tweak our website and get it to the top of Google. And because we were giving them these ideas, they were then kind of automatically filtering off to all their other customers without us being compensated. So I said to my brother-in-law, we built software before, I said, all right, I think we need to build our own website. So we basically did that over 3 or 4 months at the end of 2006, so it's about 6 years ago now, around this time. And we rented a warehouse in Artarmon that was about 450 square meters, so it was about 8 times bigger than where we were. So the 5 of us that were in our consulting business went into a space that was probably about, I don't know, 5 or 6 times bigger than this. Hired a warehouse manager and bought some shelves on eBay. We rang the publishers and said, it's us, it's Booktopia, we're doing about $2 million a year, and they said, never heard of you. Because all of our orders were going through this other company. So we had to establish relationships, we had to build that all up. So back then, when we went out on our own, which is the beginning of 2007, so it's coming up to almost 6 years ago, in early this year, say 5.5 years ago, we were doing around 120 orders per day. Didn't hold any stock, just simply when the orders came through, we ordered from our suppliers, they came in, we shipped them out. Now, the kind of feedback that we got back then was, you guys are really slow, you guys suck, I should have bought from Amazon. And it was very, very frustrating. So after a while, we decided to hold some stock. A couple of titles, the feedback changed. It was like, wow, you guys are really, really fast. Because we had it there, we just picked it from the box and shipped it. So we started to hold more stock, we started to buy more stock. So our warehouse started to really fill up, our team was beginning to grow, and about 3.5 years ago, we moved from our 450 square metres in Artarmon to 2,000 square metres in Glen Cove West. It's a huge facility. We thought this will last us for 5 years, and 1.5 years ago we ran out of space. We had to take another 1,500 square metres down the road, and literally today I was upstairs in the top floor of our building, taking over another 570 square metres, so we're now on 4,000 square metres with the 55 staff and turning over $2 million a month. So the reason why I share that background is it's not necessarily, we haven't come from the book business, as you can tell. I'm not much of a reader myself, I do photography. I do read when I'm on holidays, but generally I'm really busy. So therefore, for those of you where you're at, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be an expert in that area, whatever you're trying to do. What we did is we just focused on what we thought was the right thing to do at that time. The word entrepreneur, of course you can look it up on the internet, what does it mean? But to me what it means is someone that can make the invisible visible, whatever that is. So if you can take something, actually the truth is for me, is that it actually already exists, and what you're doing is you're pulling it out of the universe and manifesting it, and you own the royalties, the rights, because you saw that it could be a certain way, because the truth is everything really exists, and all you've got to do is just pull it out and make it happen. So for me, if you can think that way, maybe you'll start to gain access to what's out there, and you will draw it in, and then you'll have the rights to it over the years because you were the one that kind of connected with that first. So an entrepreneur, to me, is someone that makes the invisible visible. And perhaps that might be relevant to where you are today. Wherever your business is in, one of the first things I did was meet up with a guy when I first started my first business, and he said to me, you need to focus on your cash flow statements. Forget about your financial statements, your bank statements, and your assets and your liabilities. Just focus on cash. That's all you need to do. And over the years, it's one of the things that has really served me very well. When we were struggling and we transitioned from a software company that was about to go under into an internet marketing consultancy, was about focusing on the cash. And I'll tell you an interesting story which could relate to you and has reminded me about this as I run my businesses over the years, is that when I was on that business school for entrepreneurs in Hawaii, Robert Kiyosaki did a real, I'd say a bugger, a bastard of a thing. He said, all right, everybody hold up $1. So there was 150 of us in the course, so 2.5 times people here. Hold up $1, go out of the room, and in the next break, sell your services. And if someone, whoever's being sold to, if you genuinely feel that you want to take that, you believe in what they're selling and you want that service, hand over the $1. And so I went out there and I was in recruitment. So I went out and tried to do recruitment services on people, and people said, no, not interested, not interested. It was really, really annoying actually. So the second break, he did the same thing, get $1 and go out there. And so I did that. I went out with my $1, and this time I was much more loving. I understand if you're not interested, but what do you think about if you would need it? And people would say, this time, it's very, very nice what you're saying, I love you, but it's not really for me. So then the next break, I just sat in the corner on the ground, pissed off. This process sucked. And so I kind of was really stewing in it, and it really, really annoyed me. And so by the time it came to the next break, the fourth break, I was sitting there in one of the sessions, and I knew it was going to come up again, and I said to myself, what else can I do? This is not working. And actually, I was a qualified masseur. So I then realized that maybe I needed to go out and offer people a 3-minute massage for $1. So I went out the next break and offered 3-minute massages for $1, and I made $14 in the next break. Now, you can all laugh about it now, but I tell you what, that was monumental for me in terms of being flexible and realizing I need to go for the cash and it's not working out the shift. So when you see what we did with going from an IT software consultancy into an SEO company into an online bookstore, it's all about focusing on the cash. And I have many friends or people come to me over the years and really try and drum into them just where is the dollar going to come from, how are people going to hand over money, and make sure with what you're doing is legitimate, and make sure that they feel like they want to hand over cash for this. So that's really, really important. Like, they talk about cash as king, but it's really understanding that part of it. One of the things people talk about, including Robert Kiyosaki, is build something worth selling. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, build it so someone would buy it. What does that mean though? It means that you have to have systems, you have to have financial statements. When we sold our recruitment company, it was to a company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange before we got into software, and the due diligence process that the CFO of this company listed on the exchange was so rigorous, it was a shock what they went through. And it was because we had an external CFO that was helping us on our financials, helped us sell the business for $1.5 million at that time, which was really important to us. We needed that money for our next business. And so having good systems is really, really important. You can't gloss over that. It's very, very important to make sure you have the right people to get that right. But building something worth selling one of the things that I did realize very early on in all the businesses, in particular with Booktopia, is that I treat it as its own organism, or as a baby. So when it was born, it felt like the birth, taking its first steps, keeping an eye on it, realizing, being a father, I observed the same sort of practices and principles. So when I think about nourishing Booktopia, it's like, what does it need right now? So there was a time a couple of years ago, we had an external CFO, worked a couple of days a week with us and a bunch of other companies, and we were growing and growing, and I got to a point where I said to him, you know what, it really feels like the business needs a full-time CFO. And he goes, you know what, I've been thinking about that for the last month as well. So we put it out, we were able to secure a really great guy. He actually came from just down the road. He was the commercial manager of the ABC shops. They were turning over $90-odd million. So we were able to entice him to come to us, and he has been mission critical for our business. So it's knowing what your business needs and making sure that you nourish it and you give what it needs. Sorry, I do need my notes, and my eyes aren't as good, so the print needs to be really large. So what the next point I want to put across in terms for me is really, really important is what sort of mindset do you need to have? So when things happen, because it's all great, I can stand here in front of you today, but has every day been glorious, and is it the way that it's always going to be? No, stuff's going to be thrown at you, and you need to be able to take it on board and go, yeah, all right, you're going to throw that one at me. So in the last year, we had a situation where we sell ebooks on our website through the Google program, and we were the most elegant solution that Google had seen anywhere in the world with what we did with how we built that system, and nobody else did a decent enough job. So Google decided to can the whole retail program. So we were the only ones that really did a great job. And the guy from Google rings me up and he says, "I've got the worst possible news, Tony. It's the worst." I said, "What is it?" And he said, "We're closing down the Google ebook program." "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And so he explained why and what happened. I said, "Mark, relax, don't worry. The only reason why you're saying this to me today is because there's even a better system waiting for us down the road." Now, I've observed other people have stimulus response reactions and, oh, it's just that's the worst thing I could hear, or someone, like our warehouse manager just resigned last week, but he is going to one of the major publishers and managing their warehouse. But the point is that things happen to you, and if it's heavy, then the whole journey is going to be heavy. Things will happen. You'll get court cases, you'll have customers pissed off, there could be anything, people upset. You have to have a mindset that says, I was expecting that, or I wasn't expecting that, but bring it on, because if you bring it on and you break through, then you're going to the next level. Really, it's one of the things that has served me very, very well. I put down here your team, woohoo, your team. Like it can really be, and people talk about team and the frank team. And team, but what does that really, really mean on the day-to-day? And for us, what that means is you have good people. I was just talking to Karim earlier about it's himself running a business that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and a couple of helpers. You have to let go. You have to be able to bring on more people. I have a mate of mine who ran an online bookstore and had got out in the last year, and we had 40, 50 people at the time, and he had himself and his wife working 18 hours a day and 2 helpers. I said, "Mate, hire more people." He goes, I can't, they just don't do as good a job as I do. And I said, "That's right, they don't. But just get them to do little bits and master those pieces." So bringing on more people and making sure that you master them enables you to get where you get. I'm lucky, as I said before, I work with my brother and my sister and my brother-in-law. When I tell that to some people, they go, "Working with your family? How do you do that?" We haven't had an argument in 14 years. So some families can do it, some families can't. But having a team enables us to achieve more. When I think about the overall team, the biggest thing about a team for me is the harmony. And having someone in the team, you may know it in your organizations or your sporting teams, someone who's just not not rowing with you, or not, just they're an energy suck. I whittle them out as fast as I can, but not in any inappropriate way, but just realize that having the sacredness of that good energy. And I have plenty of people in my company saying to me, this is the best job, this is my dream job. Are you going to call me on time?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I just want to take a photo.
Just checking it up. I could go on for hours. So for me, I just want to try and offload as many as I can. People talk about measuring everything. We do that. Online is obviously much easier, and you guys will have other businesses where it's perhaps not as easy, but we do measure everything. So if we're spending on something, we can measure it through to the click, to the where do they get to make it to a sale, and if it doesn't make it to a sale, then we'll just shut that down. We've tried radio, we've tried cinema, all those kind of things, but really, it's so hard to measure. They all say, well, it's really, really great, it works really well, but you just can't measure it. And for us being online, it's just so much easier to analyze. And we do things internally, how fast is a book's going through the warehouse and getting out of the warehouse. These are all the things that we're measuring all the time. So try and do your best to create things that you can measure. It's so easy to say that's working or not working. Try and make yourself look bigger than you actually are. In the beginning, when I first started the online bookstore, I rang up the Australian Booksellers Association, and we'd only been going for a couple of weeks. So I said, should we become a member? And they said, oh yes, of course. They said, you should. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, we offer discount shipping. So in the conversation, I said to them, do you have a logo that we could put on our website? And they go, well, no one's ever asked for that. I said, well, could you? And they said, well, we'll have to have a committee meeting. So off they go, they had their committee meeting, and they rang me back a month later and they said, yeah, we can do a logo. I said, great, we'll become a member. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to have people know that we were someone legitimate. We grabbed the icons of banks and the Australia Post, and we put them all on our site because these were icons that people could recognise and go, oh, well, yeah, they must be legitimate. So the month after we became an ABA member, about 6 other online stores all became members as well because they realised that was the value of doing it. So of course, along the way, as you may have read the profile, we made the BRW Fast 100. Now, I never really kind of paid enough attention to that, but my brother's wife suggested you should enter the BRW Fast 100, so I did. Lo and behold, we got in, we made Fast 100. So the logo went right up on our side. Why? Because everyone knew the BRW. They may not have known Booktopia, but they certainly knew the BRW. And we did it again the next year. We made the Fast 100, and we made the Fast 100 again another year, and then in a couple of weeks they're going to have the night, but we already know we made the Fast 100 for the 4th year in a row. And to have that kind of trust icons on your site so people can go, hey, these guys must be something, means that their decision on whether they're going to buy from you or not is mitigated somewhat. We also became a Telstra Business Award finalist last year, and we became a finalist this year, and we actually won the People's Choice Award. So we put that up on our website, Telstra Business Awards finalist, because people know Telstra. So anything that you have in your business to get people to kind of gain some integrity around who you are and what you do, especially when they've never heard of you before, is really, really important. Even if it, in the beginning, was the Booksellers Association logo, that made a difference to us. I was talking before to Kareem about the systems and software. I'm lucky, my brother-in-law is an IT guy from IBM, but I also had done programming, and software and systems is absolutely mission critical. In fact, we're very fortunate to bring on one of the very best IT guys as a developer, and he now heads up our whole IT team. He's only 29 years old, and he's been creating unbelievable stuff for our business. But systems, and we say to ourselves, well, if we're going to do that project, will it make us more sales, or will it make it faster? And that's the way that we prioritize everything. So is that software going to enable us to sell more product, or will our team be able to be more efficient and save a few seconds? Because now we do 600,000 parcels a year out of our warehouse. So if we're saving 1 second, I don't know, 600,000 seconds, it's quite a fair amount of time. So they're the things you need to look at. I'll share this story with you because pretty interesting. And if you're starting your own business or even thinking of starting one, when I came up with the name Booktopia, everyone thought, hey, that's a really cool name, that's great. And a name is really important. And why did I choose that name? Well, I wanted people to know very quickly what our business was. I knew Amazon was already out there, so I was thinking Amazon, the jungle, Utopia. They were the kind of things that were going through my mind, and Booktopia. And the reason why I went for that instead of Book Utopia or any other words was that it was easy to say. Most of the time when I say it, people spell it correctly. It's really, really important. And you hear of so many, and you see so many names where they can't spell it. So therefore, how are they going to find your URL, or is it going to be confusing? So we also very quickly bought Movietopia, Gametopia, you can't buy things. Gametopia, Musictopia, Movietopia, Traveltopia, Babytopia. So we bought all these other ones so we could build up and have more lines going on. But what we didn't do in the beginning, little did we know, because of course when we started on $10 a day, I didn't know I was going to be speaking to you here 8.5 years later. It was just a side project, and we had no idea how. Even in our management meetings that we had every week, Booktopia never came up anywhere for 7 months. It just kept growing, and all of a sudden, oh, better focus on this a little. So the thing is that we registered. Now it's not the same now, just so you realise, it's the change of the laws. But we only registered in New South Wales. So what happened was, apparently, 3 months later in Victoria, someone must have seen our ad and go, well, that's a good name. They set up a little shop in Rosebud, Booktopia. And so 3 months are going on, then all of a sudden there was a bit of confusion somewhere, and oh, there's another company called Booktopia. It was like, oh, we should have incorporated them. By that stage, we were probably turning over around, say, $60,000 a month. And so I went downstairs to the legal firm that was underneath us in North Sydney. I said to them, oh, what's going on here? They've got another company, and they said, well, maybe you should try and buy it. We're turning over $60,000 a month. All right, so we'll write a legal letter. So we did, they did for $200, which I thought was pretty reasonable, and sent it off. And the owner came back and said, all right, I'll sell. Now they had no idea how big we were. And they said, we'll do it for nothing less than $1,000. That check was written like within 3 seconds. so like understanding how all those things work in your name and protecting your name. So now, of course, it's trademarked. And my brother, who's not a marketing person at all, he came up one year with the name Booktoberfest. He's very proud of it, which is on right now for the 3rd year. So we trademarked that, Booktober and Booktoberfest. So we just went onto the trademark site, making sure that no one else could use it, because possibly they could. So doing all those things is really, really important to protect yourself. Of course, in other businesses, patents are important. Whatever you're inventing, not relevant for us, because it really does need to be proven that it's the first time you've created it. And as an online store, it's hard to do that. You guys, for those of you that are in business or will be in business, you will hear this all the time, the word loss leader. Has everyone heard the word loss? Oh, it's a lost leader. And in the book business, if you think about Kmart or Target or any of those stores, they'll have all the books really, really discounted. And they're the lost leaders. Why? Because the public know if I want to get a new book, Kmart or Target are going to have it massively discounted, and they'll go into their store, and it used to be right at the front, and then people would make it to the store. And that's what books were used for, which was kind of one of the reasons why independent stores struggled. So now if you go to Kmart, the books are all the way at the back, because everyone now knows. So you have to walk all the way through the store to get to the back, and then make your way through the store to buy. So they realized that was working, and they changed the model. I've tried lost leaders once with Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, and we lost money on it. And I thought to myself, we were so busy, we sold 4,200 copies. What was the point of all of that? So now we do profit leaders. So make a little bit of money out of it. You can use people to get into your store, but make sure you're making money. It's really, really important. Otherwise, you just get busy for everybody else, and your team's busy, and then you're not making any money at all. So the last thing that I have really on my list, but I could probably come up with heaps of others. Actually, second last thing, competition. People always ask me, what about Amazon and your competition? I mean, when we started Booktopia in 2004, Amazon had been going for 10 years. I just said, they said, what about the 800-pound gorilla? I said, yeah, whatever, what 800-pound gorilla? It didn't bother me. you get out there and you focus on your niche. And for us, it was being a legitimate Australian business, being Australia's online alternative to Amazon. That's all we wanted to do. So people would come to us, and if we did a good job, people would find us. So people get so distracted by the competition. Things are happening all the time, sure, but just, yes, you'll get market share and they'll get market share. Just focus on doing a good job. That's our philosophy, and it's served us actually very, very well. Just made the final point here on my list is you have to believe in yourself. If you're not sure about what it is that you're doing, just have the belief. You may be wrong, but just go for it. If it looks like it's not working out the way that you want, you'll change. If you're very confident, you're comfortable with what you're doing, and you've thought it through, that's really where you're the most resourceful to yourself, to your company, to the people around you. So it's very, very important to be grounded. If you need to get away on a holiday, you really do that. I did one last year. I hadn't had a holiday for more than a week in about 14 years, and last year I went away for 6 weeks. I came back and I felt completely untethered, meaning that, yeah, what's going on here? What are we doing? Like, I literally had to start again. It was very, very refreshing for me. So making sure that you take care of yourself is very, very important. So that's probably the main things I wanted to cover up, but I know that there was questions, and I have a list of people sent things through. Yes?
It seems like all the businesses you've run have grown really, really quickly. So what's been your experience? Obviously a lot of new people come into your business quickly.
It's a really great question. In fact, we were talking about it before when I was talking to Karim about his supplement business. One of the things that I did, and I really enjoyed doing this, especially during the GFC, was I was very mindful not to grow too fast. And I was very, so if there was an opportunity to really turn up our Google ad campaign or do something else that perhaps would drive more traffic, I was very, very cognizant of not growing, just being controlled growth. So like radio stations would call me and they'd say, what about, because they know how Booktopia was going, what about advertising on our radio station? This is during the GFC, and I said, mate, if we got any more sales, we'd just fall over. And they go, what? Because everyone was talking about doom and gloom. But I knew that if we got on there, we would struggle because our team was really bursting at the seams. So I have a very, my skill is in selling. Whether I was as a recruiter, whether I was selling computers, and so I just focus on the sales. So I have other people that luckily they get to do other things. So when I think about where we are today, we're doing about 1,500 orders per day, 2.7 books per order. So it's around 5,000 books a day. My goal right now is, okay, how can we get to 2,000 orders a day? What have we got to do? We've got to work the affiliates. We have to do this on Google Ads. We've got to get here. We've got to get there. So for me, I've always felt that we've been quite very much in control of the plan. It hasn't got out of hand. In saying that, though, we're at a point now, if someone wants to come on board and say, hey, I want to make Booktopia a household name, and I've got an idea of a viral campaign that's going to go everywhere, and you're going to get 10 times as many orders tomorrow. We actually have the infrastructure now to be able to handle it. My warehouse manager may freak out a little, but we could grow even quicker now than we ever did before because we've got systems to support us.
Do you have a strong system for bringing new people in then, or more?
In terms of recruitment?
You grow from 6 people to 35 in a few months' time.
Okay, yeah. So I'm very fortunate because I was 15 years as a recruiter. So I know how to recruit. So I put my ads up on seek.com.au. I get agencies calling me and I say, I recruited for 15 years. If you had recruited for 15 years and you now run your own company, would you employ a recruitment agency or would you do it yourself? And they go, oh yeah, you're right, I do it myself. So I know how to meet people, I know how to interview them. I generally never do reference checks because everyone lies because it's against the law to defame someone else. So it's the truth. So you always have to say nice things if someone does a reference check. So I never do them. I just meet them. We put them on trial. Some, like in the warehouse, they might come in as a casual and we'll offer permanent. So we'll do that. But employing people has never really been an issue for me. That's really one of my strengths. It's one of my comfort zones.
Is there a failure sort of backup plan?
I don't normally tell this to people, but what happened was, when it talked about walking in the dark and knowing when you're on track or off track, what had happened was I had a meeting with a company in Alexandria about doing website marketing for them, and they were a clothing company, and they weren't interested at all. Like, it was one of the worst meetings actually I had in terms of getting a response. But while I was there, they talked about the online retail system that they use to build their system. So it was there's the synchronicity in terms of our decision making about this Canadian company. It was open source. It was Java, J2E, which is the platform that we had all built our chat software and one of the other systems that we knew. So I got my brother-in-law to call the company in Canada and had a conversation. When we realized that we had a potential platform and we negotiated them really down on an amazing price as a starting point, we knew that we had the right tools to get going. We actually had no back-end system, so we could only create a website. So when the orders were coming through, we actually ordered a bookstore, like retail system that had been converted into a wholesale system, which was really hopeless. But that's all we could afford, and that's all we used. So we were spending about 4 times the amount of time more in the back-end system than we were in the front-end system. So the decision wasn't hard. We knew that because we were doing $2 million a year, and this is one of the things I realized before when we were talking, was that because we were consulting and we had money coming through from our consulting work, we had the buffer to be able to launch Booktopia without too much emotional and financial risk. So we kept working our customers to the point when they knew that we were working too much on Booktopia and they were just being neglected, and we all agreed that, all right, yeah, we better let you go. So about 4 years ago, we just ended up not doing any consulting work and just focused on Booktopia. So we'd built software before, it was within our comfort zone, we knew that. So it was hard work, but it wasn't a stretch for us. Yes?
Did you find that because your customers are buying online that they have a different mindset, like they wanted their books or their products to be cheaper than outside, and did sort of that impact?
So the question was around pricing and being the cheapest. The question was around pricing the cheapest. One of the things that I realized early on was not to be the cheapest. Because when that's all you want to do, the margins get finer and finer in your services. So my goal was to really excel in customer service. We've got a call center of 9 people. So they're taking phone calls, dealing with emails. As long as we did a good job of being within the ballpark of being the cheapest, but holding the stock. A lot of our competitors now, if you buy from our competitors, a Fish Pond and Nile, of course, Book Depository overseas and Amazon, they don't have any stock in Australia. We have a warehouse now where we have $1 million worth of stock. So for us, I know that people go, yeah, I can see. There's a website, if you've ever seen it, called productreview.com.au. It's an independent review website. I found out about it because when you did a search for Booktopia, they came up 3rd. So it's like, oh, who are these guys? Booktopia. And then we really sucked on there. It was like our rating was like 1.3 out of 5, and it was like, oh my god, if anyone didn't know who we were and they were doing some research, they go, hold on a second, who are these guys? Oh, they're no good. So what we did is we started emailing our customers and saying, hey, if you wouldn't mind sending an email, putting a review up on our website, on this independent website, that'd be great. So what happens now is we've gone from 1.3 to 4.8. And we are the largest review. We've got the most reviews on any company on that site. And it does come up 3 or 4, and people can see it. And what we hear now is that sometimes really great prices, good shipping, packaging is really strong. They'll say it may not be the cheapest, but still they got the stock, it came within 2 days, or I ordered on Sunday, it came on Tuesday morning. So I'll share with you, because I go to Book Expo in America and I went to London Book Fair, so I try and travel around. My brother-in-law gets to, he went to Chicago for Internet Retailer, which is, we have online retailer here, but that's like times 10 over in America. And this year, for the very first time, what I observed, one of my lessons was, in the world of ebooks, which is obviously our business, is that where everything is downloadable and instantaneous. If someone's ordering a physical book, they better have it quick. That's really, it was very marked in terms of my I never really noticed that before. And a few years ago with Booktopia, if we didn't have any stock, sure, people got pissed off, but the truth was, it was taking us 3 weeks to get the book to the customer.
Is there any way of understanding who your competition is when they're not a direct competitor like Amazon? Is it, what I'm trying to say, is there a way of seeing how someone else can throw you out if they're not really so focused in, like, say, you know, Apple and...
I mean, Apple is not a competitor I don't see Apple or Google as a competitor to us. So they don't do physical books.
Okay, so physical books is...
They only do e-books.
Yeah. And
I think at the moment e-books are about 2% of all sales in Australia. That means that for every 100 books, 98 of them are books. Only 2, but it's growing, and it will be 50% in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So for us, it's always about focusing on getting the person to the book, getting them to. It's not so much. Here's the thing: is that when it comes to books, for the first time in 500 years, that people actually worked out that the book is a device. Only now that you can read on an iPad or an iPhone or an e-reader. But in the beginning, it's like, there's a device. You start at this end and you read through and you get to the end, and that's the end of using that device. So now it's really about thinking about what the customer wants. What do they want to read? Do they want to be entertained? Do they want to be educated? Do they read a book and they want to know about another book? Is there one in the series? Do they want it signed? There's so many things, and that's really our job, is to curate and make the shopping experience as easy and as relevant as they can be. That's why I actually hire book people. The guy who we just hired in the last month has anyone been into the Dimmick store in town, the big Dimmick store? Most of us have. He's the guy that set up all the merchandising and basically laid out and go, if you walk through here, that's how it's going to look, and that's how. So he's now working on our website and putting it all, so it's feels like a bookstore. So I don't know whether, I know your question was convoluted, but it's part of it. Competition really has never been an issue. I think about what we're going to do and do it well. I understand that there's other people trying to do it, but the more that you look around, it's like when kids are running a running race, you know, and then the other one runs to this side, or it just slows you up. So, and I think that's true in business.
My question is a little bit sort of that. I was going to ask you whether the kind of Kindle learning book thing is a challenge for your business and how you deal with that challenge or prepare for it.
Kindle is, I'll share with you it's a really cool story. I went to my very first book expo in America in 2008, and there was a session going on. If anyone's read it, the guy that was doing the interview was a guy by the name of Chris Anderson, who wrote a book called The Long Tail of the Internet, if you've ever heard of it or read it. And he was interviewing Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. So at that time I had a book business that was turning over 4 or 5 million, and this guy was worth $10 billion in the business that I was in. I wanted to sit in the second row and listen to everything that he said. And what he talked about in that whole session was only about the Kindle. And I walked out of there completely shattered. I could see the writing on the wall. I could see, yes, that's how people will read. That makes sense to me. I'm a technologist, and I'm walking through the corridors of the LA Convention Center like this. So I decided to say, hold on a second. I said, stop. Just let me think this thing through. And I was in a corridor, and people were just walking past me. I didn't move for 10 minutes as I thought through what just went on. And I came to the very quick conclusion that that thing, the Kindle which I saw, was a device. And I thought to myself, you know what? The Koreans, the Taiwanese, and the Japanese, the Chinese, they're all going to copy that, which is what's happening right now. This is 4.5 years ago I was there. Then it was, okay, the publishers, I know them, they will not want to only deal with Amazon because they hate Amazon, although they love Amazon. And so I knew that the publishers would want to deal with everyone else. And I very quickly, within 10 minutes, worked out what was going to happen, but there was going to be opportunities for others, and then I just walked off down and realized it. And I came back and I sat with my brother and my brother-in-law, and I said to them, look, ebooks is happening. No, but we don't have to worry about it. Next year I went across, ebooks is building, came back and said, yep, ebooks is still moving along, but no, we still don't have to worry about it. And then the next year I sent my brother-in-law and I said, you need to tell me what we've got to do with these ebooks. And he said, yep, ebooks is definitely happening, but it's not, we need to get into it within the next 12 to 18 months, which we did. So some people just don't like to deal with Amazon. Some people just love dealing with Australian companies. Some people like Apple. Some people like Microsoft. So Amazon and what they're doing is really powerful, and what the publishers did 2 years ago, they came up with this idea called fixed pricing. They called it agency model, which basically meant you could not discount an ebook. And whatever that publisher said, that's what Amazon had to sell it for. And so went through the legal system in America, and finally, just in the last few months, it was blown out of the water, and it was called, whatever they call it, fixed price. Fixed price collusion. So it was done, but now Amazon can sell their book. The main thing about Amazon, for those of us that are really, really old, you'll remember Doubleday. We used to have these deals in the magazines, buy 5 books for $3 each, and you become a member of the club, and then they'd send them out to you, and then you get those 5 books for $15, and you think really great, but then you're locked in for the next 12 months spending the money on $29.95 or $30 for thereafter, and you think, oh, that really sucks. Kindle is no different. What they're doing is they're giving you these books like $2, $5, really, really cheap, and then you buy the device, and then they know they've got you locked into the system. And that's really their tactic, which is very smart. We just don't have the resources, of course, to do that. So our job is to do a good job of curating, making sure people do not buy a physical book or an e-book, and just be the biggest player in Australia that we can be. It's definitely a game changer. The e-book, people are reading in e-books, and there's plenty of people that go, oh, I hate e-books, I want to read a physical book. It'll still be 50-50, so that means the Australian book market is $2 billion. So $1 billion is in books, and the other billion will be in digital. I think we sell maybe 50 a day. So our thing now is to go, okay, well, let's start doing Google AdWords. The margins are much smaller, so it's harder. Books are slightly bigger. So, but do DVD box sets. Be very specific. So someone who wants, I saw one yesterday, Goma Pile box set. Someone wants it. But to do a Google AdWord that's very, very specific means that that's what they're looking for, then we've got it. So I think I would still do it that way. I like big databases. I like a lot of SKUs, a lot of product, because it's just hard. And anyone else who's got 500 or 1,000, they go, yeah, that's manageable. We've got 4 million products on our website. It's just big numbers, and a lot of people can't deal with those large numbers. So I like it when there's lots of inventory and lots of different things that people might be searching on. The more specific, the better.
One of the things that those of us that run small businesses or within the startup community hear a lot is exit strategies. Obviously, you've been in your current business for 8 years, clearly still very passionate, not going anywhere unless there's something you'd like to tell us. What are your thoughts around exit strategies? Should we have one at the start of our business, or should we just crack on and see where we end up?
There's no shoulds, but we do have an exit strategy to sell on the 2nd of July 2016. Everyone asks me, why is that? Well, it's 20 years to the day that I started my first company, and it's also my birthday, so it's something to aim for. But the thing about an exit strategy is it makes your business really robust in terms of, would someone buy it? What happens with us is we don't have any external investment. Our investors are our customers. The more books we buy, the more systems and people we can hire, and we just try and sell more books so we can reinvest. But if you build it so it's sexy to somebody else, and they're going to come in and go, yeah, that's I want to buy you. Why? Because you've got profit, you paid yourself a decent salary. They'll always look at that. If you're the business owner and you're not paying yourself 150 grand, right? Even if it's on the books, but you're not paying, they will just add it in. It's as simple as that. So you need to have all those things in place. And what happens is you just think in terms of how good does this business look. You don't get sloppy. You think about the marketing plans, the financials, audit, stock levels. Today we had a finance meeting. We were looking at obsolescence. The stock that's been, we've got $300,000 worth of stock that has been there probably 3 months more than it should have. Okay, what programs do we need to put in place to move that? So I'd already written an algorithm that I'd given to my IT guys about 6 months ago that still hasn't been implemented. I said, with that algorithm, we would be out, probably would have moved a bit more. So exit strategy is important to really know the value of your business. There was one.
So you talked about that you obviously hold a fair bit of stock, and you talked about the stock. How do you sort of manage those large amounts?
I've written some algorithms that I gave to I wrote in my head algorithms that I said to the IT guys, I need you to code this. What it was is it's based on demand. So if I see something increasing, it's getting more popular, then just hold more stock of it and automatically orders it from the supplier. And if it looks like it's dropping off, then those numbers start to roll back down. It's very, very important to get that right. For me, it's just hold as much stock as your demand needs. We've got suppliers that are happy to get them to us within a few days, so why hold any more? Why buy 100 when you could buy 5 and then get another couple when you really need them? So having stuff in stock has been our strategy. Our competitors think that direct fulfillment from somebody else to them, to the customer, is the way to go. I don't believe that's the right way. We actually have 2 warehouses. One warehouse is where we buy the overstock. So it's like at the moment, if you go to Booktopia's website, which I recommend you do, you'll see at the front page our Booktopia sale, and we literally bought 165 pallets from HarperCollins. We bought 65 pallets from another distributor in Melbourne. So we're buying stuff at massively discounted prices, and then be able to offer them to customers at really, really low rates. That's one of the reasons why we can. Others that don't have a warehouse and don't want to hold stock, it's actually a struggle for them to get their head around doing that.
And what about within your actual warehouse yourself? How do you sort of manage stock?
Well, we've got computer systems that we've written in-house, and the guys have written all the software to do barcoding, and so it hasn't been rolled out yet, but like someone could be sitting with the barcoder and they just, oh, I need to go over there and scan that one and just pick that. It's all been written in-house. We're hoping that's why someone will come along and say, here's the check for $100 million, and we want to buy all that stuff that you've created, because it's unique to our industry. Yep.
So, do you ever have any issues? Like, obviously, you've factored moving stock and leftover stock into your marketing plan, but are you ever stuck with sort of bulks of stock? And is that part of the business plan that you build that into your expectations as a loss, or?
My brother buys all the stock. It's his job to get rid of it. He goes around and does these deals. He came up with one today which was pretty awesome from a publisher who's got way too much stock, and he put a bid in for it, and they said yeah. And it's like we're buying it for like 99% of the cost in some instances. So it means that we can be competitive with Amazon and offer some pretty good deals. It may not be the most popular book right now, but we can offer it a $90 book for $15 or $10, which is amazing. So, but he has bought, like we've got one book where he bought 17,000 copies. Now the reason why he did that was because if he took it all, he got everything at a really discounted. So we were stuck with the 6. So what we did is we had a free giveaway last month, about 4 books. If you put an order through on any of these books, you get this one for free. So we moved about, I think, 2,000 copies. So you have to have a strategy. For me, they're the hooks that you have that you can then make a deal and a sale. So we'll have to probably hold some of that, or throw it out, or give it away. It's really important. Oh, the other thing that I never mentioned, that this triggers, is that we give a lot to charities, to Australian charities. So the Kathy Freeman Foundation on Palm Island, which is an Indigenous-only island, they have a program for kids that go to school who show promise and improve. They get a book pack at the end of the half year and the end of the year. And it's really important to get involved in those programs. And if we haven't actually really put anything up on the site yet, but when people see, oh, you're giving back. We also do the YWCA in Campbelltown, where mothers who can't afford books for their preschoolers, we give them packs of books, get them about 1,600 books. So mums could have like 4 books every 3 months to read to their children, and their team goes and teaches them how to read to the children. We think that's really, because Amazon will never do that. Book Depository couldn't care less. But for us, we believe it's our job to get involved in these literacy programs, and if you can do a good job, because we're buying all these books volume, that's where we get the opportunity to give back a little.